Good morning, my name is Jacob Folger. I'm an artist sculptor, and today we're going to be making a wall plaque type thing, and we're going to be working in self-hardening clay. And the reason why I'm not working in polymer clay today is because there's a whole lot of people in this world who just don't have access to it. And so this video is kind of for them, but it's also to introduce to you something different, a different medium that you can work in. Self-hardening clay is really very nice. It has, just like anything, it has its drawbacks. One is it's not as durable as polymer clay when it's baked. And you don't bake this clay, so you just let it dry, air dry. And self-hardening clay tends to be more durable than other types of what would be considered water-based or air-dry clay. I do like working in it. I've worked in it many years. Most of the sculptures I did in my early years as a sculptor were done in this type of clay. This brand that I'm using here is called Mexican Clay, and it's a self-hardening clay. It gives you the feeling of just coming in contact with the earth, which is really kind of a nice feeling. It has a earthy smell to it. So it's just really pretty neat. Now, starting off here, what I'm doing is I'm taking bits of clay and I'm just forming the shape of the plaque, which will be kind of a circle design. And so you could just roll a ball and flatten it. That's another way of doing it, if you find that to be easier. So once I have the clay on the board, you kind of need a board to work on. It'd be a lot easier for you. The tools for sculpting it are about the same, and what I do is I keep a damp towel near where I'm working, where I can wipe my hands when I need to. It's a little bit messier in that way than polymer clay. It's far cheaper than polymer clay. It's this clay that I bought was about $45 for 25 pounds. So you can probably do your figuring on that and know that you're getting it for a lot less than polymer clay. But some people just have no choice. And a lot of people watching this video might only have access to Pottery clay, which is a fire clay, a clay that you fire in a kiln, but you still can use it very much like self-hardening clay. And Pottery clay, when it's not fired, is a lot more fragile than self-hardening clay. But if you're careful with it, then you don't necessarily have to fire it. So I'm just going around and forming this into a circle. I can use a sculpting knife to clean up the edges. And I'm trying to get a uniform shape. I do want the clay to be fairly thick. That way, when it's a little bit more dry, it will be easy to put a hole in the back to hang it from on a nail. So we want to get the basic shape pretty much together before we start working on the front of the plaque. I did a video recently in Polymer Clay, a little bit smaller than this, with an ocean scene and a moon and waves and that sort of thing. So if you want to check that out, that's done in Polymer Clay. I'm doing this as a bigger piece because you know, the clay is a lot cheaper than Polymer Clay, and I can do that. Right now, if this was Polymer Clay, I would have about 2 pounds used up as of now, to just give you an idea. Now you can take, you can dip your hand a little bit in some water, and you can use that to smooth it. So a little bit of water on my hand. This is a water-based clay, so you can smooth it with water, and quite effectively, actually. And you know, not all the clays are this color. This is a kind of a terracotta color, like a reddish orange color. Some of them are gray or white or green, so it just depends on what you like. I thought when I decided to buy some, I hadn't used it in so long, I thought, you know, it'd be nice to have something nice and earthy, so I got this color. But you know, I will probably finish this with some bronzes and you know, pigments like I do Polymer Clay. The only difference is I would have to paint it a base coat, which is, my base coat is usually black. Now look at it from this angle also to see if it's a uniform thickness from this angle. And what I can do is press down on it to make it uniform, a uniform thickness, and then I can go back and continue to smooth out the top a little bit. Sometimes just taking a finger like this, as opposed to your whole hand, is better, and at you know, smoothing it out. Now, what I was thinking is I'll put a little hill here. I'll take a little bit of clay, roll it into a noodle, and create a little bit of a hill. Just put it on there like that, and smooth that out, and then blend it in. And blending again is just drawing the clay with your fingers or a tool into the other part that you're joining it to kind of get it nice and smooth and have a nice easy transition. I'm doing it here on this side as well. And I'm going to get some more clay here. I have a clay sitting beside me in a bag. Some more right here. Okay, now what I'm going to do is kind of get this little hill going here. I think what I'm going to do is put a tree on the hill. So I'll roll noodle of clay, like this. And then, let's see, probably a little bit shorter than that. It doesn't have to be so long. Let's see, kind of like that. And then kind of like that, and we'll just form it as we go. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to, so I have the hill here, I'm going to have this tree hanging out over, and then I think I'll do something down here. I think maybe even waves again, like I did on that other piece that I did with Polymer Clay. So I'm just going to work on the base here a little bit. This is where it joins the hill, kind of like roots grabbing onto the hill. Like that. And then I think maybe some branches coming up off of that. Just take your time in adding branches. Like this. Have and what you can do is you can take a sculpting tool like this and just sculpt it into the base. Kind of blending it, blending it into the base so it's sturdy. And I'm going to clean my hands a little bit. I got this towel here. Just going to wipe my hands off a little bit and keep going. Okay, we're moving along here, and taking little bits of clay and adding branches. I'm not going to put a whole lot of branches on this. I just want to just kind of let you know it's a tree. Get a little bit more here. Try to get another root on there. And that will widen the base a little bit. Just carve it in. This clay is very soft. I mean, it depends on how soft it is, but if the clay was really kind of more stiff, you would probably want to score, like I always show people on the on my Polymer Clay videos. So Just keep that in mind. But you definitely want to blend and cut it in so that it's, you know, really one with the plaque portion, which is this portion right here. And so I think that's all I'm going to add for the branches at this point. And we'll come back and see what kind of texture we want to add to this. And I think now I'm going to probably start making some waves. So I'm going to roll a little ball here and then roll it into a noodle, kind of a cone shape like that. And then curve the top like that. So it looks like a little wave, kind of. And then I'm going to put it on we'll call that the plaque, for lack of a better term. And then we'll just keep making those. And you can make them different sizes. And also you can have them pointing to each other. Just you know, just play with it. And I'll tell you, you know, it's really the smell, the scent of this clay is really has a strong earthy scent, and it kind of creates a little atmosphere of earthiness, and it's an interesting kind of experience, I have to tell you. Once you lay them on, you can, you know, move them around and that sort of thing. So I want to do I want to go across here like this, and then come across again. So there's you know, layered on there. And then what you can do is on the bottoms, you know, blend them into the plaque. Like that, so there's a good bond. And then kind of in between each top wave, we'll call that the top, this is the top section here. In between each wave you can lay in another wave. And then we can go back and, you know, brush them in and sculpt them in so they look good together in there. Add a little bit of lines for texture and that sort of thing. And then I think I'm going to have one on the end here, at least one on the end. And another here. Would be a pretty little scene. So we'll have it like that, and then we can take a small paintbrush with some water on it and just smooth them. So, you know, you can sculpt them after you lay them on and get them to the shape and look that you want. If you have your cup of water here, when you put it into the water, you can go like this. I'm actually making contact with the bottom, and that's cleaning the brush. If I just put it in the water without tapping it on the bottom like that, it would take a lot longer to clean the brush. And then also, you don't necessarily want the brush to be soaking wet, so you could take some of the water off with your finger like that, or you could use paper towels and dab it off like that. But it's going to offer more resistance with the clay if it's not so soaking wet. So just keep that in mind. You can take a tool like a paintbrush, and this actually was a paintbrush, it broke off there, but you can put it to the side of the wave, and you can push the top around it, and that will create more of a curve at the top, like that. And then just go back and brush it. So you're sculpting with the paintbrush and, you know, just a regular brush end. You're sculpting with that as well as with tools and your fingers. Another thing you can do is, as long as you keep an eye on it, you can wait till it's a little bit more firm. As it's air drying, it's drying right now, and you know, it's actually a process. Obviously, it's going to be more soft when it's wet, and it's going to be more hard and you know, formable. It'll be easier to sculpt it when it's a little bit more firm, you know, once it's drier. As long as you keep an eye on it, you know, you don't want it to go too far to where you can't, you know, work with it. Another thing you can do is you can take a sculpting tool like this, and you can draw in little lines like that, giving it some texture. And just do each one. And then what I'll probably do is I'll leave it for a little while, and I'll go work on the tree and give it a chance to firm up a little bit, and then I'll brush it again, and maybe even draw the lines in again. So I mean, it's just like this process. You're you know, trying different things and waiting a little bit to give yourself a different take on it, on the sculpting. If it's a little bit drier, it might be better in some ways for you. And of course, if as long as you don't let it go really far, the drying, you can always wet it and bring it back to a much softer state by doing that. You can use a bigger brush, again taking off some of the water with the paper towel, and you can go back and smooth it with that. Keep in mind that a harder bristle brush is going to leave lines in it. So then you might want to go back and smooth it with your finger that may not leave lines, or a softer brush. And then again, dipping the brush. You see it's heavily laden with clay right now, but if I take it and dab it into the bottom of the cup, it will clean it off fairly rapidly. And I can take the water off, a lot of the water off, by just rubbing it on the edge of the cup. Take off further more with the paper towel, and then that will give it more resistance on the clay, and it will smooth the clay a lot faster than if you went on there with a lot of water on the brush. Now I decided that I would add a little moon up here. So I'm just rolling a ball of clay like that. And I am going to score this, because I think it would be better if I did. So I'm going to score the clay where it's going to join, and I'm going to score the moon, and then put the two together and just sort of twist and lay it on, and then just kind of flatten it. Just make sure my fingers are fairly clean so I don't make a mess here. And then just press it into place. And that kind of has a nice flow. It has, up here in this corner is the moon. We have the waves down here and the tree in between. So it's a nice nice little scene there. I'm going to clean off my tool a little bit and just scraping off the clay. And I'm going to put in some texture for the tree. Sort of kind of paying attention to it as opposed to just scratching. I'm actually paying attention to the flow of the lines. If you watch my videos, you know I really love sculpting trees. Really any kind of art around trees is something I really love. And then you can go back with a paintbrush, clean your brush off really good, and dab off the excess water, and then just go back and brush the texture you just put in, and it will look a lot more subdued and even kind of windswept, which will be kind of nice. And you can actually repeat the process where you do some lines with the brush, and then you go back and or you do some lines with the tool, and then you go back and brush in the lines a little bit more. So clean the brush off on my hand here for lack of something better, and so I'll put some more lines in. And then after I do that again like that, go back with my brush, clean it, dab off the excess on like a paper towel or something, and brush it again. And you can just keep repeating that. For future reference, that's the same way you would do hair. And that's how people, sculptors, make hair look so amazing when they do a sculpture of hair. I have a tutorial on how to make a lion's head, and I show that in that video too. Touch on it anyways. So it has a different look than the waves, and we can go back to the waves and do the same type of thing. Kind of just changes the appearance to a more soft, gentle look. And again, you know, once you've done that, you can go back and with your sculpting tool, make sure it's clean, take the stuff off of it, whatever, you know, the clay that's on there, and draw some lines in, and then go back and brush it again. You repeat the process. You'll see that it's very effective. Now another thing you can do is you can go back you know, wherever you've brushed with a harder bristle, and make sure your brush is a little more wet, and then just go back and brush out those brush lines, unless you like them. I mean, you might like the brush lines, but if you don't, this is how you would do that. You would go back with a softer bristle like this one. This brush here is a far softer than the bigger brush that I was using a few minutes ago. And just go back and smooth it out. And then finally, you know, also when you get ready to be finishing the piece, you can go back with the sculpting tool and you can clean up the outer edge by just cutting along it like that. And then you can take your knife like this and hold it like this and just clean up the edge on the board itself to give a nice clean you know, board around the sculpture. And I do recommend signing your sculpture too. And if you can, try to do something a little bit different than this, although this is a great starting point to learn from. but always strive to you know, have your own creation that you're signing. And then just take your time and don't skimp on this step. Just take your time and go around and really brush it and get it really nice and smooth and pristine, if that's what you want. Some people like a lot of texture. I personally love texture, so I often leave my sculpting marks in, but on this piece I kind of want it to be pretty smooth and nice. Now, because this piece is still very wet, I don't want to move it from the board. But I want to show you how to put a hole in the back. So I'm going to show you with a piece of clay here. Let me just form the shape, basic shape, so that you can see, and I'll give you a demonstration of that. So this would be the back of the sculpture. You want to have a hole that's going to be at least bigger, larger than the nail itself. You could use something called a finishing nail to hang it on. Something that's heavier, because this will be a relatively heavy piece. It won't be like really heavy, but it'll be somewhat heavy. And when you hang it, when you put the hole in the back, if this is the top of the sculpture, you put the hole in at an angle going upwards, and then enlarge it like this. Okay, and the reason why you put it upward, going upwards like that, is when you put the nail in the wall, you put it downwards. So the back end is going upwards, and the reason why is because when you hang it like that, if the house shakes for whatever reason, or you know, somebody slams the door, it won't go flying off the wall. It will stay on the nail. So just it's very simple, but it works great, and I've been doing my sculptures for years like that. I've done many wall sculptures, so that's how you do a hole in the back. And that's the main reason why I do a thicker sculpture like this when I'm doing a wall piece. So also, when it hangs on the wall like that, it hangs flush to the wall, flat to the wall. If you put some other kind of apparatus on the back to hang it from, like a piece of wire or something like that, it wouldn't likely hang flush to the wall. So that's another reason why I do it that way. So this is where we're at here. And now this will dry, and as it dries, it will become slightly lighter in color. But it will mostly be this color, and then you can either leave it like that, or you can finish it, you can paint it, or do whatever you like with it. And so that's how you make a wall plaque like this. And if you don't have access to polymer clay, this is you know, the kind of clay you can use. And it's even if it's not self-hardening clay and it's pottery clay, it will be a little bit more fragile when it dries, but it still will be, you know, something that you can create with and that sort of thing. So if you like this kind of content, please subscribe to my channel. And I do a lot of videos along these lines, sculpture of all kinds, and tutorials. And please like the video, share it with your friends. If you have friends that you think would like to see it, share the video with them, please. And leave me a comment or question in the comment section. And keep in mind that I do make things for people if you like something made just for you. And please feel free to visit my art shop. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.